locked us in here, and we're not going to get out for a bit, jerkface.
We're going to talk wrestling.
We're going to talk some wrestling. Mighty Guy Joey Fingers, Homeless Guy Will.
Hey now.
I'm Russ.
Doing this. I feel
And
like
joining us, this is my life in a nutshell.
Yeah.
This is Scott
my life in a
Mars
nutshell.
from
Hello.
WNY.
WNY Indie Wrestling Fanatics.
Yes.
It's on Facebook.
It's on Facebook. Follow. By the way, congratulations on 400.
Thank you.
Very good. Very good.
And we miss you, Big Sean.
Yeah, Big Sean is in Livonia, Michigan.
At
for-
Evolve.
for an Evolve show. So,
Hanging out with the wifey.
yeah, and many other things. But the sad news to get into right off the top, the passing of a legend, and I guess we're going to be seeing more of these as we go along
We're at
in
that
time.
age.
Yeah,
Especially the age we're in. So.
yeah. So,
Or we are, excuse me.
Harley Race passing away not too long ago, and really considered one of the greats of the business, and I think we say that a lot, but this is truly a guy that was truly one of the greats. Everybody talks about Ric Flair, 9-time NWA champion. Right behind it, Harley Race at 8. It's like, oh my goodness. But I'll maybe go around the table. Start over here to the right. Harley Race. Wow.
Yeah. I do remember a lot of his stuff. I do remember like his run in the AWA in like
Yes.
the late 80s, early 90s. And I do remember seeing the match that he had against Larry Zbyszko.
Yes.
It was like the last TV taping for the AWA.
Yes.
And, they just ended it on a double count out, I think.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool. I remember a lot of his other stuff too. It was back like in the 70s and that, it was like harder to see because a lot of that wasn't on TV.
Yep.
So, and he built his name not on TV.
Right.
And that's pretty damn impressive.
Yep. Yep.
So-
Yeah, I mean, like you said, TV wasn't as prevalent, obviously, as it is now. But back then, it was like it was all reputation and what you heard,
Yep.
and him being one of the faces of NWA back then, and you, sir, growing up as an NWA fan and whatnot.
An NWA fan, but his NWA run was even before my time.
Yep.
And I say that, and I don't take anything away from his legacy. I think he was an amazing performer, amazing wrestler. Because he was considered one of the toughest guys in the business. Period. He was considered.
far, yep.
Yeah. And that was always his thing. Was he was one of the toughest guys in the room. Didn't matter what it was, and I only saw him perform as the King. I've gone back and studied the catalog after the fact, and it's amazing stuff. But I only saw him as the King in the in the rock and wrestling in the era in the 80s and stuff. But he was great. He was great. And the question I have is just after listening to you guys talk about it a little bit was how come when we years ago now when we did our Mount Rushmore.
I was going to bring that up.
Oh, okay. That can segue into Joey talking about it. Is how come he wasn't even in the discussion?
Yeah.
Right.
You know what?
I had a conversation with a customer here at the Transit Music Lounge.
Yeah.
Chief
Shameless plug.
last week about this right after he passed away. We should have considered him in the running. The customer and I went back and forth because he thought Bruno should be replaced by Harley Race.
Hi, Chad.
Yeah. Good
My
call.
conversation for that was because Bruno sold out the garden for how many years by himself? His name sold out that garden.
True.
Harley Race, tough SOB, great wrestler. I mean, he is a legend, but Bruno sold out the garden for how many years in a row, every time, and he would wrestle 25-minute matches.
I think we might revisit the Mount Rushmore thing because I think our things have changed since then. But I think putting it into context, there are guys that I think we can all say that have been overrated in the business. Over the years, and then there's guys that have been underrated in the business, and I've always considered Harley Race, and I even put this on our Twitter, that right after he passed away, and it took a minute to think, and I go, Harley Race, just a random thought, Harley Race, one of the most underrated champions in wrestling history.
Yeah, I could agree with that. And again, a lot of it does go back to it not being on television.
Yep.
And we as wrestling fans, we tend to forget that if you weren't on television, that doesn't mean you weren't any good.
Yeah.
That just means TV wasn't really that much back then. And the show that you did have was mostly the local, regional programs. You know, now you can see anything that you want from many promotions. So
Yep.
Yeah, before the 80s with the whole rock and wrestling and WrestleMania blowing up, I mean, not a lot of people watched it, but it was territorial. You know, Vince bringing it all together, or his father, I should say, started buying out the territories and putting more on television, brought more faces that we never saw before. You know, if it wasn't for Andy, whatever the hell his name was, would the King be relevant?
Oh,
Like,
Andy
he put him
Kaufman.
over, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, Andy
You know, like
Kaufman.
things like that
Andy Kaufman,
that brought eyes to the wrestling world. You know, things like that bring you up more.
I think one big thing that I think we're maybe not touching on is the market that Bruno was in. He was in the
New York City.
the biggest market.
the
yeah.
biggest market, you know, there is, and Harley Race was doing everything else.
Yeah, and Harley Race was actually the guy that was the draw wherever he went. So he did sell out buildings too.
Right,
It's just that unless you were there, you didn't see it.
You know, he would sell out civic centers,
He would sell at the Omni. In
the
Atlanta.
Omni in Atlanta, you know, stuff like that.
That was the
aren't
biggest
tiny
one, man,
buildings,
back in the
so,
day.
yeah.
Yep. So, but it's like no, but all eyes were always on New York. You know, the Madison Square Garden and all that stuff.
The Mecca of America.
But see,
Yeah, true, true.
could we say, since we're, you know, in the wrestling business at the time, because if I'm not mistaken, when it was WWF, when Vince Sr. owned it,
Right.
was it the biggest promotion? I don't think so. I think there was Mid South, there was
Mid Atlantic.
there was Mid South. There was the one. It was Tennessee, which was Lawler's promotion. I think
The NWA was still big.
What was there? Bigger promotions back in like the late 70s, like then I think when Vince McMahon, who now runs the WWF, took it over, he changed it. But were they the biggest promotion? I'm just asking a
No,
question.
they
Maybe
said
somebody has a
Omni
better
behind it.
answer for it.
Don't know if they were the biggest one, but they were in the biggest market.
Yeah, then that helped a lot.
Yeah.
And they had the money behind it.
Yeah.
That's how they could start buying
Well,
it.
But I think his dad didn't have the money at the time.
Yeah,
That's why I'm asking that question.
Yeah, back then it was everybody. I don't want to say it was on a level playing field,
It definitely was not.
but it was, you know, but when you have the market, that kind of trumps
A lot of the other stuff.
stuff.
Right.
I was going to
whatnot.
say, because even like WCCW, which was Fritz von Erich's promotion in Texas,
World class.
you know,
Right.
that was big. That,
Yep.
you
And,
know,
and market size, the Dallas area,
Dallas,
and
yeah.
you know, so in a way, WCCW was like you probably could consider them the main competition.
Especially in the 70s and early 80s.
80s, right?
I'd go with them or Mid South for sure.
Right, but I think you know but New York City, that was like the hub. That's the hub of everything, you know.
It's because New York City, especially, it was the biggest city in the United States. It was,
Yep.
you know, where you're, besides Hollywood, it's where all your stars were. So that's, you know, that's why you got.
Yep.
So big.
Actually, all your stars were in Minneapolis because Vince went and totally robbed AWA.
Well, no, I meant in
That's-
general.
When he started rocking wrestling, am I wrong?
Yeah, you decimated that, yeah.
You know, where do you think Hogan? I'm just kidding, but where do you think Hogan came from?
Hogan, John Studd,
John Studd,
Andre the Giant.
Yep.
Andre the.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing when you go back and look at the talent that
Bobby
AWA,
Heenan?
that the AWA had. If
It was ridiculous.
If Vern Gagne. I mean, and there's many stories out there
The
about
Rockers?
about how he wanted his son
Just
to
racking
be
it right
the
now.
Oh, yeah, I'll start
flag
with-
bearer.
Oh, Greg.
Greg Gagne, the flag bearer, and was charged with nepotism because he wanted his son to be the main star.
Yeah.
And he let guys like Hogan and Andre Studd and Bobby Heenan all go. And look at where that ended him up. I mean, if he would have played his cards right, AWA
Some of that up,
might have been the promotion,
Oh, I bet you it will be.
you know?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So,
And then they wound up. I remember AWA towards the end. They were doing a show on one of those casino paddle boats.
yes.
Yeah.
And there was like a few people there, and then they had like a title match or something in a completely empty arena. because nobody wanted to buy tickets.
Wow.
And it's like,
Yeah, I mean, it was like, way to go, Vern.
yeah,
Yeah,
big move, Vern.
was that the Wrestle Rock Rumble?
It could have been.
'Cause I remember that video, the Wrestle Rock Rumble.
Oh boy, but no, but definitely Harley race, definitely considered one of the best. Yep, right here. NWA performers and really wrestling performers of all time. Just wish he would have gotten more credit where credit is due. And really, it's a shame that you have to wait for somebody to pass away to get that credit.
The funny part is too, he got the credit from his fellow wrestlers. It's just the fans he didn't get as much credit from.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, he's a well-respected general in that ring, with every organization and every wrestler, you know.
Absolutely. And hey.
And the stuff he did in Japan,
Yes.
he was actually pretty huge there. Giant Baba here used to wrestle all the time.
Yes.
Yes, I mean that was some good stuff. Sure, that's on the internet.
Yeah.
Everything's on the internet.
And he did body slam Andre the Giant.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did. Before Hogan.
Before Hogan. And Andre was at 575
I was
pounds.
saying it was also a little bit lighter, but
But still, hey, that's pretty impressive. Andre's head was touching the ground. But